it
Well, you
twice
can't get a
already.
reservation.
All right. Did you text Joe or? I don't remember him saying anything, but.
No, I don't either.
Ron, the people that was ahead of me are not here, and it looks like this dropped.
Okay. We on? Or-
Yes.
Turn your mics on, folks. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Publics Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board, town hall, and mailing the officially designated newspapers listed the meeting dates annually, indicating this meeting would take place at town hall at 7 p.m. on December 16th.
Amy Lawrence? Here. Gary Rosen?
Here.
Regina Truitt?
Here.
Jessica Blatt?
Here.
Craig Whiteman?
Here. First, we're going to start with approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes for this evening. First of 11/4/24. Any corrections or changes? If not,
Is this the one for lighting? Sorry, I have to look. That's back as I guess. It's sent. I think some spots on that.
No, that.
That was the memorial.
made on the 8th.
that's the 18th. That's not the 18th.
Okay,
So I'll read that change.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, who's on?
We're gonna Joe, Sean, no, Amy, Gary, Regina, Jessica, Craig.
Okay. Any correction changes on those minutes? If not, can I have a motion to adopt?
move approval.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next up, we have the minutes of 11/18/24. Any corrections or changes?
Yeah, the only change is on page 10. And I don't have the correct one. It's here. There was, the applicant is agreeable to having the lights on a dusk to dawn timer and agreed to have the lights on, not to have the lights on past midnight. That was
So that's not a dusted no time, but
Well, it was, he agreed to the dusk to dawn, and I think you had made a
And
comment
then I
about
asked,
the
like, can
time.
you be more specific? Is there, we talked about, would there be apartment complex, other residences nearby?
well,
And then he said, yes, there will be. And then he said, I would consider turning.
all right, we're revisiting all that anyway, so that's fine.
I mean, there's nothing in the resolution that states that, there's no
Sorry.
condition of approval.
Right, okay. Any other corrections or changes on those minutes? Who's eligible? What application
No,
is that?
that is it.
Gina, what?
Was Willow in this? Wasn't it Willow in this?
Willow West.
Yeah. Well, elimination. But it said, I don't think there's any residents. As he said, well, there will be apartments.
Right.
Well, the apartments are not on top of the restaurant.
Yeah.
They're already
Right.
existing.
Other, yeah. We talked about those.
Same as Amy, Gary, Regina, and Jessica, you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
He actually made the comment, he said, there's hardly, that's not gonna be anyone at 3 a.m. looking for a place anyway.
Yeah, they're not open, they're just.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve as corrected.
A second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up is the memorialization, starting with calendar 40/16/24, Willow Milburn LLC, 35 Main Street in Milburn. Any corrections or changes?
The only thing the page 3 and page 4, initially it had said the 12th day of December. It had to be corrected to the 16th, that was the only change.
Who's all?
Eligible are Amy, Gary, Regina, Jessica.
Can I have a motion to approve the memorialization?
So moved.
And a second?
Second. Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Jessica Glatt.
Yes.
Next up, we have calendar 401124, petition Flavio Emerald at 159 Hobart Ave. Any corrections or changes? Who we had all for that?
Same.
Same crew. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve calendar 4011-24.
Super. Amy on the second?
Sure.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Jessica Glatt.
Yes.
And lastly, 399824, Divion Shu, Vox, and Gita Schroff at 33 South Mountain Road in Milburn. Any corrections or changes? Who are eligible?
Eligible are Amy, Gary, Regina.
I have a motion to approve that memorialization. Motion to approve. And a second?
Second.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Okay, so getting to our applications here, for those playing along at home, calendar 399124, Timothy O'Brien at 386 Hartshorn Drive. That matter is going to be carried for scheduling purposes only to 1/13/25. Followed with calendar 398424, that is 57 Thackeray Drive, Rastogi. That is going to be carried for scheduling purposes to 1/13/25. Followed by calendar 399624, 38 Crescent, Arethusa. That too will be carried to 1/13/25. Scheduling purposes only, so these could change. And what looks to be calendar 398324, which is 112 Canoe Brook Road, Cack and Bronstein, that too will be now moved to 1/13/25. No further notice will be given on any of these applications. Please keep an eye on the website of Town Hall for any other changes that may go on, especially as it comes to the real dates that those cases might be heard. So first up this evening, we have a matter carried from 11/18/24, calendar 40/15/24, 85 Stewart Road.
I hate to ask this, but I do have somebody coming who's going to help me. I'm in that position.
Mhm.
And he said, well, it was the third one, can I come a little later? I don't know. What to do.
Well, unfortunately, we need to move forward, so I would recommend getting a hold of them.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
Actually,
that's, I mean, most attorneys know that that's not really always the case, that we do juggle things around a bit. So, but still reflect that.
Just so that you can know that you did watch the video.
Oh, yes, I did watch the YouTube video of the prior testimony regarding this case.
Do we need to be resworn?
No. Everyone's sworn. Were both of you sworn?
I don't think he was.
sworn. Okay, so I'll swear you in real
Why
quick.
don't you raise your, you swear from testimony you're about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Just state your name for the record.
Marcos Romano.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, board, and thank you for re-listening to us. I brought a lot of exhibits, and I brought exhibits because of a lot of the questions that came up during the hearing. I want to enter them, and then I'll distribute them. So I'm going to mark them.
That's fine, well, I'm not sure where we left off. Hang on one second, we'll just see where we left off on this. I don't remember having any use.
I don't think I submitted them. I talked about it.
Okay, all right, so then we'll mark this A1, whatever, and describe what you're giving us, if the
Okay.
pictures, when they were taken.
Okay. The first exhibit is a landscaping exhibit. It's going to show a series of trees that exist on the property. It's connected to a second exhibit, which shows trees that were planted as part of an HPC approval process. And the third are pictures of the property with those trees. If the board members have not had a chance to go to the property, I can put this as one exhibit.
Yes.
4 pages,
There's four pages, well, 3 pages, how many photos?
2 photos.
2 photos.
Two photos will be A3, the landscaping exhibit will be A1, and the trees planted with the HPC approval will be A2.
Okay, hold on, back up. Trees are A3 and A2?
The photos are A3, and you said there's 2 photos?
Yes.
A1's gonna be your landscaping exhibit.
Okay.
A2 is gonna be your tree replacement exhibit, I believe.
Or HPC.
It's a tree addition
Right.
exhibit. They've been since planted. I'm gonna date them all 12/16/24.
So there's 3 exhibits, A1 and 2.
Yes, and A3 is made up of 2 pages.
Sorry.
Start with,
I can start down here.
The
Gina.
meeting started.
Thanks so much.
It just started and it's just started.
all right.
You
Ex-
gotta tell me.
Go ahead and describe them. as-
Yeah, Exhibit 2, and this one I'll mark A4, is the type of grass that exists over the tennis court. There was a question from one of the board members of what's turf? So it's just a turf exhibit, and there's 2 sheets.
Got it.
Call him.
The next exhibit is an exhibit about what the roof was made out of. That came up during the meeting, and I had testified that it was a combination of polycarbonate and standing seam metal. So I brought both of those exhibits, and I'll mark them A5, and I'll date them today, 12/16/24. It's made up of 2 sheets, Eileen. All right, the next exhibit is an exhibit that says, how do you play tennis in an 18-foot tall structure? It was a height questioning. So I brought some exhibits to show how such a structure exists. And there's 3 different ones that we have here. 2 have sidewalls, but they are relatively low roofs, mostly for back and forth hitting, not volleying. These are exhibits that were also presented before the HPC. This is 3 sheets of pictures, Eileen. All right, the next exhibit, I have handouts. This is so that you, the board members, could have access to these at all times. These are the exact distances of the tennis court that exist there today to all the adjacent neighbors. There's 3 sheets in this exhibit. Regina, that's marked A6.
A6.
So this will be marked A7. It's,
Are you addressing any of these exhibits? Or you just giving us the-
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Is this the exact product used?
yeah,
It is, okay.
I'm not addressing those. Those are really, they were
No, it's fine. I
informational.
just wanted to see if that was the product that was actually used on
They
the site.
used them. What did they do?
Okay.
So is that true for A6 as well? Like, this is what it,
No, those are examples of how tennis courts like this for hitting bays
okay.
exist.
So it may not look exactly like this?
Oh, no.
It's an example of a roof
It's
line.
pretty close. That one's really close. No walls, a pretty standard roof.
I apologize. I just got a phone call. My attorney is caught in traffic. Is there any way we could hold off for 10 minutes?
No, we're gonna keep
Okay.
moving. So
Just
tell them
want
to
to make
hustle.
sure I told you.
Yeah,
I apologize.
sure.
All right,
They will stop.
the next exhibit is A7, and it's a handout. So here's the marked exhibit of A7 with the date for the attorney, and the rest of these are.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you the board attorney? Are you the board attorney? Who?
John Campbell.
Can you speak to?
No.
them?
Hey, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
We're
Thank
over
you.
there.
Sorry, they will not speak to you. I tried.
I have the marked one as the attorney. And one more exhibit, this is the last one, and this one I'll be speaking to. This is a a very complex illumination planometrics design illustrating light spillage that will occur as a consequence of this structure with the exact light fixtures and the exact landscaping around it.
When I speak.
You need another one? I have more.
Oh, no, wait.
Oh,
And I have requested.
Okay, and so I'll repeat that. The next one, the next one is A8, and this is an engineered lighting study which shows the impact of the lighting being placed in the structure on all surrounding areas.
I did.
Page
I told them and I.
4 of this exhibit is the planometrics adjusted for, page 5, adjusted for landscaping. Page 5.
Yeah, excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am, on the phone.
This is Kobe.
Okay, so, sorry,
If
I
you want the phone or
apologize.
outside.
Yeah, if you're gonna answer the phone, please take it outside.
If this is the way you're talking to me.
Super, you said, but you can still do it outside.
I will. I apologize.
A8 was the lighting.
A8 is the neighborhood surrounds.
A8 is the lighting, that's correct.
The lighting.
Oh, A8 is the lighting, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay.
Here you go. All right, so
What was A8?
it's coming.
Oh, I have it. It's just one copy.
Yeah, I only marked one so far. One, two, 5. Okay. These lighting studies were done mostly at the time of the HCC meeting, but they're accurate, and they depict the light spillage that would occur as a consequence of an approval of the roof structure. With the lighting shown, the lighting studies on pages 2, 3, and 4 are before the landscaping has been input into the program, and the page 5 is the lighting study with the impact of having trees around it. And you'll see it's virtually none once you get past the property. Okay, so tonight's application has to do with why we're here. We were approved before the Historic Preservation Commission, and it was a difficult series of meetings because they had never seen anything like it. We were successful in arguing that an open-air tennis pavilion with a surrounding wall and columns built to mimic 85 Stewart Road with ivy and stone very much blended in to the aesthetic of the property. The property that this sits on is 100,000 square feet, or approximately 2.5 acres. More, maybe closer to 3 acres. The property is an L-shaped property, as is shown in the plans that you have. It's L-shaped. The tennis court is tucked into the back right corner dogleg of that. Everything about this pavilion, believe it or not, is conforming structure except for 2 elements. The lower right side, as you approach the court, and the upper left side are only 9 feet 6 inches to the first post for the roof structure, whereas 12 is required. Because of that, a small variance is needed, as depicted in my pink colors, in the top left corner and the bottom right corner on sheet C2, which I'll mark as an exhibit as soon as we're done. And we have one of these. Well, that's the extent of the variance, this corner and the lower section. It's the unusual nature of the structure that everyone had questions on, which is why I did all those handouts. Those handouts are as clear to what we're planning as anything. In the handouts you received, there's also a picture that my plotter printed of the property and the structure with its translucent center and its standing seam metal sides. The translucent center is just to bring natural light in during the daytime when it is the intended use. The purpose of the lighting is just to allow extended play in cold weather like this where it gets dark early. They have coaches that come in and help instruct their children in both soccer as well as tennis. And though that's the variance, it's really just those two corners. We're up to your board to say that that's okay. Each of those corner columns would just be in the way of the tennis play because they're too close to the corner of the court. That's the extent of my presentation.
How many other tennis courts, private tennis courts are lit in town? Private.
There's an ordinance prohibiting the lighting of a tennis court in town.
Right. How many clubs actually have lit tennis courts in town?
I know Rackets has a lit tennis court. I don't know about.
No, they don't. Not lit tennis courts.
All right, they know. Then Giro Park.
Well, it's municipal.
Yeah, municipal.
Right. So many other clubs have lit tennis courts?
Canoebrook's technically in town. We have lit tennis courts, and they use them now.
Would you say that's a similar type of location, residential location to this?
No.
Does Short Hills Club have lit tennis courts?
No.
So why wouldn't you make the roof more translucent so that you get more light in during hours, and this way you don't have to do lighting? I mean, in the summertime, it's light till 9 o'clock at night, so.
Yeah, they would accept hours of operation on it. I argue it this way. It's a building. And I think lighting ought to be provided under the structure of a building. They're
Well,
not,
if it's a building, then that may be a whole other, that's another avenue to explore then zoning wise. I mean,
no, if it's a building, the UCC, the Uniform Construction Code might say, like they do now, where you have doors on a house, you must have lights outside those doors. It may fall under a requirement to have lighting, but I don't know.
well, that's not how you got it approved for HBC as a building. You got it approved as a open air facade more or less.
Yes, yes. What's that?
Was it approved as an accessory structure? Is that-
It's approved as an accessory structure. No, the term, I think he's challenging the term of calling it a building, meaning that if I'm calling it a building, then we have to have lighting, and therefore it's kind of handcuffing the way I present to him. What is the purpose of the lighting?
I mean, exactly what you said. On a day like today, when our kids are training and playing, it's dark so early. So having lighting gives them a little bit extra time before dinner and into like the early evening to just keep training. We have 4 kids. They can't all train together. So it's literally, we piggyback one, the next, and it just gives us more time, but it's not to play. I mean, they're 10, they're 8, they're turning 6. I mean, we're not going to be up using this, past dinner time.
What about the next people that buy the property?
Hopefully we have it for a very long time.
No, so my point is
What about
this.
when your kids are teenagers?
Yeah.
Right.
And they have friends over?
More likely.
So we have to also think about it from a municipal land use purpose, which is that our decisions run with the land, not just you. So this is in perpetuity, the decisions we make.
The tennis court is already there, and I mean,
Well, that's
people,
very different than a covered structure with lighting. I can tell you what my senior high school would do with this facility. They'd be Braves every night.
but you would allow that?
Well, let's put it this way, you can try what you want to allow or not allow, they'll still do it. The noise ordinance is up until 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen, so if we.
Well, no, that's for you guys, but I'm saying
No.
we have to think about
That makes
the
sense.
next
Here, come in
person.
for
No, I was gonna say, if,
the recording can't. pick
so
up.
we have, as you can see in the location, we have like a whole acre of open land of grass. If we wanted to put up a rave,
We could do it anyway.
anyone could put it up. So, and we would need approval probably from the state to throw a party, which our neighbor, Ms. Cogan, the one next door, I think about 3 months ago did, and got approval and put up a tent and put lights up and threw a
We
party.
don't really have to have an approval for that.
No, what I'm just saying, if there was a need to do it, I think there's the space to do it. And it wouldn't be the tennis structure that would do it. The reason why we would like this to get done is because so I was an athlete. I am a firm believer, and so was my wife, about the use of technology. And if I could have my kids outdoor longer, I think it's much more healthier. I forget the stat I have a female daughter. I think the stat of CEO women's that are been part of a sport is like 80% of all the Fortune 500 women that are CEOs actually played sports. So if you ask me personally, I think this is all about providing an opportunity for my kids that quite frankly I didn't get growing up. I grew up in Brazil. I didn't grow up with the house that I had, but it's an important element of just making sure that our kids are outside and they can play. And, you know, if noise is an ordinance, we're happy to discuss the level of the noise that I know Ms. Cogan is here for. But again, the lighting is not an issue, as I think we've provided for. There's no spillage. I think the question that maybe you guys are having is around the noise, less so the lights.
And I'm not doubting for a minute that you would be a good actor. It's, we have to think once again,
Yeah.
in perpetuity.
But the lights, I guess just to separate, to make sure I understand as well. The lights, there's no spillage on the lights, correct?
The issue is if there's lights
It's
that are,
usage.
that means you could play, and I'm not saying you would, this is what you're planning, but your kids could play at 3 a.m. Right? They could.
They could do
You
that
don't-
now.
They could do that now.
It'd be a little hard, wouldn't it be hard to do?
I don't know,
If
they
it
could
was
bring
dark.
or like, they can bring lights outside, I don't know, like, they're kids,
Once-
they'll
once-
figure it out.
once again, I think you're
There's
missing
a
our
whole
point.
ways
Our
over
point
there.
is not about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about what could happen 20 years from now.
I mean,
And that's the decisions we make. We don't make decisions for you. We actually don't even care how you use this property.
So why does everyone keep asking us?
In what sense?
We've been asking.
I'm not asking you. I haven't asked you once how you use the property.
I
I
mean,
didn't ask once.
No, I guess the question.
I'm merely saying what the intended use could be in the future. That's how we have to make our
That makes
decisions.
sense, but I guess,
We don't care what you do inside your house. We don't ask about how you decorate your house. We don't ask about what you do on your porch, your patio, your driveway. We don't care. We honestly don't. We don't care what you're even actually using that for. All right, I mean, you say tennis. We're not standing there making sure you're playing tennis on it, or letting the players playing soccer.
yeah, no, we're playing soccer, so,
Okay.
but I guess the question is, just to make sure I understand, is the light spillage is there? It's not there, so I think the question that you guys are posing on us is the noise, is that correct?
Well, once again, no. It could be you, it could be the next person that owns it.
Okay, so if we
however it
move
is.
out and someone moves in with a teenager and they throw a rave, the issue is the noise, not the light, is that correct? I'm trying to make sure.
What if they take the plants, the trees down?
What if I take the structure down?
Good.
What if they take the structure down?
You
No,
could.
I'm like,
Well, I'm saying but we have to think about that.
okay,
So you're saying it's not the light, but something could change in the future where there is light spillage. I don't think it's so much, for me personally, the light spillage. I think it's the ability to play late at night. And I'm not saying you're gonna do that, but I don't know what the next person's gonna do.
yeah,
Are there hours of play requirements in town? Like, when does tennis, I'm genuinely asking because we're new
Yeah,
here.
I just
so-
want to sort of like right the ship here a little bit. You're asking for variance because it is forbidden. So you're coming to us asking for permission to do something that is not allowed. So I think that's a fundamental
yeah,
thing that you have to like understand. It's not allowed.
we
And
totally
we're trying to
understand.
hear some reasons,
Yeah.
but there's reasons under the law that we can allow it and, you know, and then wanting your kids to be athletes is unfortunately
Yeah.
not one of the things that's permitted under law in terms of us giving you a variance. While we understand why everybody wants the best for their kids.
Totally understand, and I'm not here
Yeah,
debating,
so-
just to make, I
Okay.
understand what you guys, I guess what I was just trying to understand is the question, because I'm trying to understand the comment.
So my concern is the lighting, because actually I don't even understand this. I know you gave us these, I don't, it looks nice, it's very.
It's a
beautiful.
measurement of lumens that takes place with that exact
But-
fixture. and that
But
exact-
light has a way of seeping in between trees. I don't know, I know this from my neighbor,
That's
that
why-
I planted,
right.
and they've got a well illuminated house, and guess what? In spite of all my arborvitae that I've planted over the years, anticipating that big house next to me, I can see them at night, I'm like, oh, there it is. So light does have a way of
It does,
seeping through
and that's why
trees,
page-
unfortunately.
That's why page 4 is there with page 5. Page 4 shows the spillage without trees, and page 5 shows the impact of the trees, because both have to be
The
considered, like you
trees help,
said.
but the reason there's the ordinance that you can't allow these things to be lit up all night is because of light spillage is one thing, because there is no spillage, and also the ability to extend the function of this, except, I don't know, whatever, this tennis court or accessory structure, whatever you want to call it.
Let me-
Is a component of being good neighbors.
Our attorney has a question for you. Go ahead.
What kind of variance are we looking for here?
The variance is for 30-inch
I know it's 4. What kind? C1, C2?
C1.
What's your hardship? That's not personal to your clients.
The existing tennis court that's there sits askew to the property lines, which we discovered literally in August or September. That askewness, which is depicted on sheet C1, forces a very small sliver beginning in the lower right corner to be non-compliant for 30 inches, and then it ends approximately 7/8, 3/4 of the way up the court, and a very small sliver, approximately 5 feet across and 5 feet down in the top left-hand corner, because either of those slivers are not exactly 12 feet or greater to the property line.
These slivers are the court of the roof.
Roof,
Okay. So the court's existing.
yes.
And
Court's
complies,
conforming.
right.
So you want to put a non-compliant roof on it.
The roof is slightly larger than the court, and
Okay.
it's just a matter of safety. The court ends a little bit short of that. So by having the column 30 inches into each of these two corners, it just makes it more playable. That was the crux of the variance initially. The knowledge that the lighting is also an issue, and I hear the concerns. I question is, if we were to remove the lighting, would that give us a better chance before your commission for the approval of that 30-inch variance? Because there's really those two elements.
You've got a compliant tennis court. If you want to move forward with a hardship variance, it's up to you, stating that you have a hardship that for some reason you have to put a roof with lights in it on top of a compliant tennis court. And if you're comfortable, you want to move forward, that's a hardship. That's up to you.
In the traditional sense, on a 2.5 acre property, it would be hard for me to argue that this is a space hardship. This is a hardship that's a product of just having.
Self-imposed hardship.
Yeah, when we went before HPC, we did not plan on going before the Board of Adjustment.
The HPC and the Board of Adjustment have different standards for different things.
HPC is a design standard.
Yeah.
I don't have any purview over that.
Let me get the question understood correctly. You want to,
You're asking for a C1 variance.
yeah,
You are stating then that this roof with these lights, both of which are non-compliant, in order to have those, there's a hardship on your client that is not personal to them.
that's right. I think it would be better if these two corners, it would be better if they were outside the corner play area of the court. I think that's just a matter of just safety, someone's running into it. That's how this came up.
But once again, this is still a self-imposed hardship. Okay, you have no hardship as it runs with the land. The use, I think you're conflating two different things here. What you're doing in it has nothing to do with the hardship itself. You have a piece of property that's substantially larger than the zone requires. Okay, so there is no property as it runs with the land. You're creating the hardship based on what you're doing. That's not a hardship in the sense of municipal land use law.
Well, there is a betterment to the existing court to have the roof slightly larger than the court. The betterment is one of just
But
safety.
that's nothing to do with land use.
Um,
You're not meeting your land, you're not meeting the positive and negative criteria. That's where John's going with this. I mean, just by saying, oh, it's nice to have it outside, yeah, I get all that. But that doesn't meet your positive and negative criteria.
well,
I mean, everybody with like roofs and lights all over their backyard use it all the time.
the de minimis nature of this roof overhang is a significant factor here. I say it's de minimis because it's a small sliver of 5 by 5 in the top left-hand corner and basically the right side from 30 inches down to 0 inches. The argument, other than saying that it would be better if it was placed this way for safety of the use, I don't know if I can argue a land element that's causing this, other than the fact that it was discovered the court sits slightly askew, and we want to be.
Because the court complies, so we don't have a problem with the court. It's the use that you're now taking it to the next use, that's the problem.
Right.
So, once again, I would argue you haven't met the positive or negative criteria under C1 hardship variance.
Tom, can you just remind me, because I can't find attachment E anywhere, what are the variances right now that you're going for?
There are two variances that we're going for, and I might have it. Variance 1 is the construction of a roof slightly larger than a compliant court, whereas two 30-inch setbacks
Right.
are violated in the top left and bottom right corners of the court.
12 feet is required.
12 feet is required, 9.6 feet is proposed for just those two corners. And the second is the institution of light, no, the
Installation.
installation of lighting as an accessory structure, is it recreational?
Recreation.
Recreational structure, not allowed in the town.
And could you have put the roof over, because I was sitting on HPC when you came for approval.
Yeah.
You don't need, they don't need a variance per se for putting the roof
No.
over it. It's the
It's the
size of the roof. And you're saying that the size of the roof is because HPC wanted you to design it in a certain way, that's making the overhang? Or you're just choosing to?
No.
So I guess what I'm asking is, can you just put a roof on that conforms?
So I included the
And then
HPC.
you're getting what you're still getting a covered tennis court,
Right, so let me go back, and I did give you a copy of the resolution, and Mrs. Gladys is correct on one matter. Part of getting HPC approval before the meetings that we were at was the implementation of a wall around the court, a thickness to that wall, approximately 30 inches. And that put our posts, which are integrated with that wall, away from the court. If we were to put the posts on the inside of the wall, it does, it's kind of like, it could affect the way the court's
It
played.
also undermines the court, which is what I understood. We actually have to go into the existing court. Is
Yeah.
that from what I
Yeah, the
understood?
walls are outside the court. And so that's what started this 30-inch revelation. And because they're so de minimis, they're just literally, they're so small. It came up and I said, we're gonna have to go before the board because small or not, it's a variance.
Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Go ahead.
but she's waiting.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So one of the variances, I thought what you said is one of the variances is the fact that it's a structure itself that's not compliant. Like to build, so what part of this makes it a structure if it's not the roof?
No, I called it a building. I said, because a building is defined as a columned and roofed structure. It's what's in our ordinance. But if we don't,
The building coverage, that's the definition of building coverage.
right, so if we just exempt that and say that that's not the case, I didn't mean to overstate that. That was purely that. An accessory use structure is not limited. Maybe the master plan could create a limitation, but right now, there's no limit to what an accessory use structure.
It's setbacks. It's
Just
setbacks.
setbacks.
Side yard.
I just wanted to
What's
be clear.
setback on the lights?
Yeah, it's just.
And having
setbacks.
lights on, lights are.
Should be 12 feet, they're at whatever it is, 9 and
9.5.
change.
Yeah, 9 and change for very, very small amounts, but we're there. And so I asked the question, if lighting was removed, would this board see this as more approvable? Or do you want us just to,
Let's talk about the nature of the materials that the roof is being made. Is there a variance related to the materials of the
No.
roof?
No.
no, but I did submit to you that the
Yeah,
center
all right.
section, and I have a really good picture here. And I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, that is a nice picture.
And I'll pass it around because it's better than my plotter can do. This was done by my 11 by 17. A9 is the next exhibit. Okay, I'm hearing nothing. I assume it's A9. And this is a pretty good depiction of the sunlight during the daytime
Thank you.
entering the court. That was produced by my office. It is a pretty real-time rendering. And you'll see that perhaps the use of more polycarbonate would make the lighting on the court better, as opposed to steel panel. It's my understanding that if we did do that, more polycarbonate. I need cross bracing. The steel corrugated roofing acts as a sheathing material and it actually braces the structure. So a certain amount of sheathing was always initially intended.
Can I ask our board attorney a question? With respect to, hardship, does he need to show a hardship or can it also be, variance where it's,
He already is C2, he has one already that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's benefit of the neighborhood.
Right? It's like, can the property handle?
I don't know if, it's a lawyer question.
Sure.
Could they agree to a stipulation deed restricting the use of lights? If they sold the property, they have to remove the lighting?
I don't see how you're gonna do that. I don't see how
I've
that
never
would
heard
work.
of that.
I question the enforceability of something like that too.
I don't know the enforceability of it, whether or not it has an effect on the way the board decides. You're restricting the use of land, it's always a question. So if you're telling somebody you have to take something down when you move, it's always a gray area.
And how many years from now is someone gonna remember that stipulation? It's just not.
Okay, fair enough.
It's very hard. I can tell you how many times in town we've required people to put trees up and trees die and they don't go back. So it's, it's always best to have as few of those as possible on an application.
So it goes back to my question, if we were just to scrap the use of lighting out here, does this board have a more favorable impact for those two sections where we're overhanging?
I think I'd have to hear from, I think there are other folks here who want to talk before
Sure.
I could even think about that, but
Like I said, I'm not ready to make a decision on that, but I think we should just hear the testimony. So, any questions for Mr. Babb from the board?
No, just confirming that you don't know of any other lighted private residential tennis courts.
No, I don't know of any other. I would just say that a tantamount would be a cabana or an open air. People have covered porches on their home and those are lit and, but not a recreational structure like a tennis or soccer field.
And pools, are they?
That's what I was gonna
Pools
ask
have-
about.
Pools are
Pools are
permitted.
allowed.
It specifically says pools are allowed under above ground lighting. I think it has to be no more than, 30 inches above.
Oh,
They're given.
thanks for that clarification. So pools are permitted lighted 30 inches above the ground.
Yeah, I mean, only one more point. My A7, which is the distances to neighboring properties, these are distances probably unachieved by anybody else in town to have an accessory structure so far away from surrounding neighbors' homes. That might speak a little bit to a C1 where I could see an avenue where the board could look at that and say, well, it's a very different type of setback for 30 inches. It really is so far away from neighboring properties and it's so far away that it would have very little impact this much in the corners as a way of allowing them better usability.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience regarding, law forward?
My name is,
You gotta step in front of the mic for me if you could. Thank you.
my name is Bernard Riley. I represent Mrs. Cogan, who lives next door. I apologize for being late. I asked,
Please.
85, I believe it's Stewart.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're in test. I think it's 83.
83, my apologies.
Thank
In any event, could I ask you a couple of questions
Sure.
of,
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry, you're the engineer?
I'm the architect, Thomas
The
Baio, B-A-I-O.
Okay. I gather, are there any other tennis courts that have roofs on them in town?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and as I read the paperwork on this application, the reason you want the roof is because the son that lives there is a fairly good tennis player?
They have 4 children. They are both former professional athletes. They
The two-
use
the
the tennis
parents.
court as more than just tennis. They play soccer on it. I introduced an exhibit. There's a turf surface that was put on there. Keeps it kind of quiet, but it's used for multi-purpose
There's a
sports.
turf surface that's gonna be used for the tennis court?
It's on the court already.
Okay, and the reason you are requesting a roof is what?
Extended play during bad weather. They can go out there. I had submitted a bunch of exhibits. It would be only fair to say, do you want to see them?
Yeah.
One of them shows tennis play under a 18-foot tall roof where they practice serving and return hits.
So it's basically for their edification in practicing their game.
That's right.
Okay, now, there are other sports courts in town, are there not? Not tennis courts, but sports type of courts?
Yeah, I spoke earlier, it might not be a roofed tennis court. There might be one in Milburn. I think there's a sports academy there. I'm not sure.
No longer.
Oh, it's no longer there. I remember it was approved years ago. So, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I'm sorry, could you show me what you, and again, I apologize for coming in.
I don't have A1, A2, A3, A4.
This,
That's one of them. That's A7. This depicts the measurements from the court to the adjacent residences.
okay, and my client's resident is where on this sheet?
Okay? This is the subject property.
Okay,
It's L-shaped. Mrs. Cogan's house is right here.
okay. And this presumably is going to be usable with lights? There's going to be lights on it, I assume.
We are here because one of the variances we requested was the installation of lights.
Okay, and have you testified to what are the reasons that justify that, variance reasons, land use reasons, or is that somebody else?
No, that's me.
That's you, okay. And what are the reasons that are justifying this as a land use, not for the comfort and edification of the property owners, but from a land use point of view, what justifies this?
Whenever you have a roof structure, generally, I look at it as safety requires that you have some pathway lighting or some sort of lighting in it.
Well, let's talk about the roof, never mind the lighting. What justifies, from a land use perspective, not from the individual comfort of the residents, what justifies this from a land use standpoint?
There's no justification from a land use standpoint. There's just some additional testimony I gave about trees and submitted lighting spillage.
Okay,
Planometrics.
so you've tried to minimize the adverse impacts,
Yes.
but there's still no justification from a land use point of view to approve this, for this board to approve it, correct?
With regard to lighting.
No, with regard to that, I'm talking about the roof. I asked you about the roof. And I asked you, what from a land use perspective, not the personal comfort of the occupants, because that's not a justification. What's the justification from a land use point of view for this structure to be there, this big structure? And I think you said there is none, correct?
1 second. Having done this 33 years, I'm
Yeah.
relying on my memory banks from good planners.
Well, I think you're gonna have to wait a long time to figure out, but I'm sorry, I don't want to comment, go ahead.
The nature of the zoning board of adjustment is to look at individual applications and apply land use standards and other reasons in the approval of structures that cannot be compliant. In this particular case, those other reasons are because going before a different board, our columns got pushed out of
I
the
understand,
court.
I read the minutes.
And because of that, it forced 2 sections of this court in a rather very minimal way of being non-compliant, the top left and the bottom right sliver for about 3/4 of the side. Given that they're both very de minimis, but real, we applied for a board of adjustment under other reasons, not necessarily,
When you say other reasons, what are we talking about? What other reasons?
well, the
There's
reason-
land use reasons, and what's another reason?
it would benefit my client to have those columns slightly further away from the court. It would benefit my client to have extended play so they can have coaching for their 4 children. And it would be a benefit to my client to have the ability to play during rainstorms.
Okay,
or
but,
coach.
but this, a roof tennis court, I take it is not permitted as proposed, correct?
Roof over the tennis court, if we move these columns in, is a permissible structure, we wouldn't be here.
And what about the light?
The light would not be a permissible structure.
Okay, so you're asking for the lighting, and it's not permitted,
That's correct.
okay. Do you know approximately how far this court is from my client's house?
Yes, page 2 of this exhibit, it's a 3-page exhibit, shows that to Mrs. Cogan, it's 178.04 feet.
Okay,
And that's the closest proximity, which is her corner of the garage, not really the,
okay, so it's about 175 feet, right?
yes, sir.
And this is proposed to be lighted for what hours?
They would accept limitations on hours as part of condition. They haven't proposed any hours, but I'm sure they would be amenable to 7 PM.
What we talked about with historic preservation was following whatever the town requires, or, I mean, something different if that's what's
Right.
asked too.
Right.
Well, the town isn't permitted to require it.
We don't allow it, period.
No, but doesn't tennis have to stop at a certain time, or did I misunderstand?
Well, the lighting is not allowed, is that correct?
That's right.
Thank you. Would there be any kind of, other than practice, which you've talked about, would there be games there? Would there be, organized games of any type?
My clients would accept a condition of approval that this would only be related to sports and no other function.
And the main purpose, I take it, is tennis, but there would be other games.
Soccer is the primary
Oh, soccer.
use, and tennis it's a tennis court, so
It
tennis.
also has existing basketball hoops on it.
And it has some basketball.
Okay, so there would be basketball, soccer, tennis would be the primary.
Yes, sir.
So that would be I guess, an all year round type of thing. It's not one, it's the other.
Yeah, you could play in the winter too.
Yeah, the idea is that we can use this year round.
Yeah.
We could use it when it's raining, we have 4 kids who love to be outside. So if it means they can be outside in the rain, absolutely.
All right, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Wait, before you steal them.
Sorry, my apologies.
No, that's okay. You can have one. That's an extra one.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the professional?
Can I talk?
No,
Yeah.
you're represented by,
No, but
Counsel.
I didn't say he was the only one. I intended.
Well, she's gonna talk.
all right, then you hired him to speak
No,
for
I understand
you.
that, so I
No,
have
I
to ask
didn't
the
want
question.
him to speak
So
for me.
if you want to come forward,
Yes.
that's under your
Yeah, I didn't know
request.
you were taking public
But we haven't
comment.
done public comment yet.
Right, you'll get a chance to talk in a moment.
So, any other questions from the audience regarding this application? Next, we're gonna jump to comments. So if you would like to
Yes.
bring your client forward.
Now, I could talk?
Yes,
Okay, but may I also hand out things, please?
yes, you may.
Okay. Okay.
Counselor, will you be coaching this or?
I'll be asking her questions, yes.
Very well, okay.
I mean, I'm basically gonna let her speak.
We
I
have-
understand.
Yeah.
I have not met him or spoken with him
All right.
before he walked in.
Understand, you hired him to represent you, so at this point, he is your counsel.
I didn't understand that, yes.
You're gonna get a
Okay,
chance. All right, Mrs. Cogan, why don't you,
how do I
Wait.
show?
Let her do what
you have some exhibits you want to present?
What, she has to be sworn in, right?
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So raise your right hand. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I
State
do.
your name and address for the record.
Susan Kogan with a K, Kogan. And the address is 83 Stewart, Stew.
Okay, it's been testified that your house is approximately 175 feet away from this structure, is that accurate?
I have no idea.
Okay, you live next door,
Yes, I do live next door.
all right,
And I will say that even though they're not on 2.5 acres, because it's less than that, at least that's what it's reported. The majority, a big majority of the house is in front. Have you been there? A big majority is in front of the house, of the land. But they are trying to put a lot in this small, much smaller part that's behind them. Okay?
all right, what pictures do you have there? What do you-
Okay, may I show?
Yes,
Okay, so I'm sorry I didn't bring enough for everybody.
Hold on one second.
What?
These are all pictures?
What?
These are all photographs.
Yes.
And then how many,
I have 4 of the same. I have 4 of the same that I'm going to hand out now.
How many different photographs?
I have 2, but I only
There's
printed.
just 2 different pictures?
That's for now,
Okay,
yes.
So we'll mark 01,
take one, I'll give
2
you.
pictures.
Okay, well, they'll have to divide it. I didn't know there was, no, this one I need to hold.
All right,
I only have 1 of that. And can I have
you're gonna,
1 of these?
okay. All right, these are the same, so I guess they would be marked 01.
We'll mark it, so both
Sure.
01, 2 pages.
Oh, that's one picture, there's 4 copies of the same picture.
All right, so that's
Okay.
no problem.
And then I have something else I brought to,
Would you want to describe what's in the picture?
now can I go over the photo first?
Yes.
And then there was something else that I brought.
So
I'm
this,
sorry.
so Mrs. Cogan, you're gonna be explaining this photo, correct?
Yes, I'm gonna be explaining it for 2 different reasons, okay?
Very well.
Okay, so this is the mutual fence between us. I don't think I planted it. I think the people before you planted it. And what you see, the first thing that you see, that's my tree. But right behind it, there's something that's blue. That's the pool they have. Right behind that, what's green is the tennis court.
Where's this picture taken from?
This is taken from my property.
Is it like the front door of your property or approximately where?
No, I walked closer so I could get a little bit better picture,
Okay,
okay?
okay, so,
But I have it here for I have it here to show it to you. It's not that far away from me. They're gonna be building a building that is a little bit overwhelming, and that's what I overlook. And as I said the other day, when I talked, when we were last time, I said when the people built the tennis court, they had assured me that that's all would be done. They would never do anything else. And it wouldn't be, and they would use it at appropriate times, which they did. No complaints about that. But that's like what you said. What happens with the next people? They want to do what the other people promised me would be done. So, when you said that, it made me think. But I have this for 2 reasons, and I'd like to hand out something else, which is your reports, but it's just, and there's one for everybody.
What is that? Because we have a copy of
This,
ours.
yeah, I know, it's just 3 pages that I wanted to point out, so you didn't have
Go ahead
to,
and point it out, because we have
they
that
have a
there.
copy of the
Close.
application.
but I thought it would be easier, no?
No, just go ahead, you can discuss that from there.
Okay, so, this is the report. So on there's a page 2, which is towards the back. That's why I figured it'd be easier if I just give it to you.
Well, I think she's referring to,
Are you referring to the HPC resolution?
yes, she's referring to
Yes, the
the,
HPC resolution on page 2.
on page
Go ahead. And
Page
read
2
what
and 3.
Go ahead and read what you're
paragraph
discussing.
4 and 5,
Okay.
I believe.
This is one. This is when you were talking, and it says he expected the noise not to exceed 55 decibels. And then it had to be removed because obviously it's going to be louder than 55 decibels. I am no
That's
noise.
inaccurate, sorry, that's inaccurate.
No, it's not saying.
It's just not factual, so.
I'm reading.
Sorry.
You have a chance to ask
Okay,
a question.
what I'm saying is I don't know how loud even 55 decibels is. But that was the comment. Okay, so that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. And then on the next page, which is page 3, and I'm looking at number 9. Okay. It says, Mr. Bayo stated that since April, the applicant has planted 75 trees along the property line with the neighbor who testified at the first meeting. That is an out and out misrepresentation. And I would like to, that's what I passed out. So as you can see, There are absolutely, those trees, most of them were there. There are absolutely no trees planted along here.
When was
And
this
this,
picture- when was
This picture was taken yesterday.
Okay.
And not only are there no, I'm trying to figure out, I want to say something. So there are absolutely no trees planted along here. And so I don't know where in the world they're writing that there's 75 trees along the property. This, which I did not hand out, which is another one, which I could leave it.
Yes.
It shows a slightly different area. It's also completely no trees or anything.
You can pass that one around.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that was, and then can I make a few, so you can see that it is not trees. I don't know what they said they did, but it's not by me. Okay, what I'm gonna say is the town of Milburn put in that there were no lights over auxiliary buildings for a reason. Okay, why? Because they didn't want people to have noise all night long, all morning long, at all times. They did it to protect neighbors from one another. And that's what I'm saying is, I think the structure that they're gonna build is, you see, it's not that far from me. It's in the front. It's when people drive up my driveway, that's what they see. It doesn't look nice. And, you know, I think to me the lights so that they would be able to be played at all times is a big deterrent. And now you can put a time frame on it. But if they go over, what am I supposed to do? Start calling the police every time they go over? That's a little bit crazy. And now, is that me? I apologize. I thought I shut it off.
I promise it's not in this building.
I don't know why it's still ringing.
Yeah,
If you know how to, please. So, okay, the oldest now, as has been said, I think is 10, almost 11, and there are 4 other children. Within 5 years, they're gonna have a bunch of teenagers. The teenagers have friends coming in. It's not gonna be just them. They're gonna want it. There's a big court. I used to coach soccer, not in this town, but in Livingston when I lived there. I know how noisy it is in soccer. You don't need a lot of people, but everybody's yelling. They said there are existing, I believe there are existing basketball nets now. But if you want to play it at night, do you know what it sounds like when that, I don't care what they put on, when that basketball hits the net. And when you play basketball, people say, pass it to me, this and that. As the kids get older, there's going to be an awful lot more playing and a lot more things. And there was something else that could be played on the field besides, you can play football. There are many other sports that could be played there. And I can't limit, you're not limiting them, nor am I trying to limit them. Want to do things in the afternoon, during the day, fine. Things shouldn't be able to be done towards evening when people are resting. Now, as I say that, I'm being very serious. I am not the healthiest of people. I do sometimes like that, and I do sometimes go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night. And then sometimes I can't get to sleep until 3 in the morning, where I want to sleep later. For them to be playing basketball or soccer or anything, it's going to be a lot of noise. And the lights would permit them to do that. Without the lights, they wouldn't be able to do that. And I just think it's really unfair. Okay, and I'm sorry.
Do you believe this will impair the use of your property?
I think I also think it'll affect my property's value. to have this building, because that's what it's gonna be in front of us. It'll affect the view that we see. Right now, there's not a lot of grass left between the pool. And I haven't been in the backyard that often. I was there 2 or 3 times and that's it. So I don't want to say exactly what the backyard looks like, but I do think there'll be a lot of kids there to be playing because it'll be indoors. They'll be the only ones who could do it on a rainy day. All the friends will come over to their house. It's just not fair. That's all I can say. It's ignoring somewhat my rights, if I could say it. And if there's anything else, and as I said, there was supposed to be trees planted, but no trees were planted
All right.
of
Anything
any
else you wanna say?
significance. No, I think that's all. I
Can I ask a
just
question?
think it's not fair.
Which house is yours on this?
Okay.
You can take a look at where their house is versus where your house is. This was a handout from the applicant. Their house
It's
is,
just there. Okay, this is their house and their tennis
that's
court.
the tennis courts, that's correct.
So this is probably mine.
Yes, that's what she pointed out.
That's what,
Okay.
this is the one that's
That's,
mine.
okay,
And this
The
is
red
mine.
one?
The distance to her.
Or are you this-
3 pages.
that's what I'm wondering, which house is hers.
No, I'm
I just want to reference the right page.
I'm on the next house on Stewart Road. I'm over here.
And the pictures that you took, where were you standing when you took those photos?
Over here.
Can you
Hey,
describe it?
You gotta speak up over here, though. Like, we have to be able to hear all this.
Yeah, we're like.
Please, just
Why
go
why
back
don't
to the
you point
microphone.
out to the board on this?
No, go back to the microphone, please,
Okay.
first.
Thank you.
My house is where,
Council, which page has the distance?
This is
to
the
her
one
house?
with the distance, this distance is, this line is here, but it just,
they say,
Okay, so it's
it says on the
It's the
closest.
second of the 3 pages.
yes, I believe that's it. And why don't you just point out, and so they can see where the picture was taken, that you just,
The picture was taken from over here.
So.
This
yeah,
is
so
my
you can
draw-
see-
I have what's called, they don't permit it anymore in Milburn, but I have what's called, what? A flag lot, which is, if you can imagine, I have a driveway and that's the pole. And then you come up and I have a big circle on top and my house is on one side, like a flag would be. So, and my house somewhat overlooks it. It's a little bit higher.
This is a standard Google Maps photo, so north is pointing up.
I think so. Yeah, it's standard. I didn't do the.
So you're pointing to the southwest corner of their property, correct?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
What?
point again where you were standing when you took the
Yeah,
picture.
that's, I don't understand this. This is what,
Well, this is your house here. And that's the, obviously. the
okay,
pool
Steve.
and the-
This is our driveway is next to each other.
Your house has the red roof with the circular drive in front of it.
Yes, the
It looks to
circle,
have like a tree in the middle of it, correct?
yes, that's it.
Got it.
That's my house. But as you can see, and as I showed you from the picture, the tennis court would be right there.
And your
Is
front yard
there.
faces it, your house faces it,
My,
correct?
the front yard, and we do, and when my husband was around, we did a lot more entertaining than I'm doing now, but I still try to entertain. And we do go outside in the front, we go out in the back too, I'm not gonna say we don't. But that's where my porch is. I sit on the porch a lot to read when I wanna get outside and everything. But, I don't know what else to say to you, I just think that the lights, and I really don't wanna live in a life where I have to call the police every time they're playing at a different hour or something like that.
Understood.
And as I said, I think the town put no lights for a definite reason. I guess that's the best I could say.
Counselor, you have anything further?
No.
Okay, this is mine, this is not mine.
You guys have any questions?
And this is,
No, I mean, I don't know if it's questions, but just maybe,
Question.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any questions for this witness?
okay, because
Do you have any questions?
yes, I do.
Stand.
How often,
Stand.
just so we're, brother, Ms. Cook and I are obviously neighbors, so I said regardless of the outcome, we would,
And I happen to
I'd
be,
have Rover for cake, so.
okay,
It's all-
I happen
it's
to be
all
a big
okay.
sports fan, and he is a pro soccer player,
Used to be.
used to be. Indoors, right?
No, there's.
Oh, it's outdoors, I'm sorry,
It's
okay.
okay. No, I think the question that I would have is, thank you for the pictures. I think as it relates to the pictures, how often are you in that exact location that you take the picture? And you're under oath, I believe, right?
Yeah, no, I'm being honest, I went a little bit closer so I could get the picture in. But there's no trees that are blocking, there's nothing that's blocking the view from my house.
Do you
You
have,
could look down.
do you have a picture of where you sit with your porch to show?
I didn't try to get a picture, but the light would come through. As somebody said, they had lights and the lights came through the trees and everything. Trees don't block lights. Trees really don't block sound. It might block it a little bit. I can't say, I'm no expert,
And
but it doesn't do what you want it to do. And I can think as they're growing older, they will have more kids and more friends over. And especially on a day like today, all their friends would have wanted to come inside and play basketball.
last question. I was gonna say, what was I?
Okay.
Can't believe I blanked.
Okay, and there's something else I was gonna mention.
Well, at this point, we're only open for question
Okay,
from,
go ahead.
I had a good question, but I forgot.
I don't know.
So I apologize. But I guess no question.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Anything further, Council?
No.
I can't say anything about the attitude that they might have.
No.
Oh, okay, I had to bring in pictures.
No, but at this point, we,
Okay, because I do have some pictures, okay.
yeah, okay.
I mean, I would like to make a couple comments in summation.
Absolutely, you're more
Okay,
than happy to do that.
good, thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Let it be known the only other people in the audience are the next applicant, so we'll stop with that. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I think the question as a board, you have to answer is there a land use reason that justifies this? It's not a question of it's nice to have because they have kids, if the kids want to play in a roofed facility, with a lighted facility, they want to play at night. That's not the question. The question is there a land use reason for this? And there really is not. And frankly, the old thing about the slippery slope you're on. I mean, I've been a board attorney in a few towns down the shore, and they have sports courts, and they turn into a problem because somebody has a couple of kids, and they bring over their friends, and all of a sudden it's a place of public assembly. This is precisely what could and probably will happen here. And I don't think you should grant variances for such a facility. I mean, there's parks, I'm sure there's plenty of parks in Millburn. People can go to the parks, that's what they're there for. It's no reason to have a park in your house or at your house, even though this is obviously a nice house and a big house and a decent sized piece of property. It's going to impact the neighbors. It's going to impact her, obviously quite substantially. And there's no reason to grant variances for this. It's not, and as I asked the question, what's the land use reason? And there is none. There just is no land use reason. No positive criteria is being met as required. And secondly, is it going to be a detriment to the neighbors? Sure, it's going to be. It's going to be a detriment to the neighbors. It may be, you could argue about, is it substantial? I think to her, it's going to be substantial. Maybe to some people further away, it won't be that substantial, but maybe it will. But it's definitely, if you apply the land use criteria, this should be turned down. Thank you very much. And I apologize for coming in late again.
Any other questions for the board, comments for the board? Then I will close the public portion. Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Then I'll close the public portion. Board members, what are your thoughts?
I think the biggest issue here is what the attorney said, which is that there is no land use reason that we can grant this. I've been on this board for many years, and I was under the impression that an applicant needs to provide, an appropriate land use reason in order for us to be able to grant a variance. So I don't think it necessarily, our board's attorney could correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it even necessarily depends on how we feel about it overall. If we're not, having that land use criteria, for a variance met, I don't even see kind of how it, I guess it can go to a vote, but, I think that that's my big issue right now, beyond anything else.
So I would agree with the comments you've made. One thing further, when I think of from a C1 perspective, which is obviously a hardship, those proofs have not been met at all. And even from a C2, I would say this fails. To say that doing this in consideration of what the neighbors have to look at and endure is certainly not beneficial to the master plan or zoning plan to start covering tennis courts. The other thing too is we say tennis court, but I'm just taking a picture here and it looks like everything but tennis is going on here. We've had now basketball going on, everything else, and I don't know if that was the original intent of having a tennis court built on the property, is to now use it for everything else other than tennis. So I think as uses over the years migrate, and this is a great example of it, we've been now talking ad nauseum about the next use. Well, it started as a tennis court, and look now what it's migrating into. Now let's put a roof on that, let's migrate into something else. So what the original application was for is now being completely distorted into a completely different use, which I'm not really sure is beneficial also under a C2 perspective, where we're constantly adapting a use to suit that owner, and now we're gonna cover it and adapt it again. So I don't really think that's beneficial to the master plan or zoning plan. So, and the lights, as far as I'm concerned, are a non-starter, because that once again takes this use and intensifies it even more. So we started playing tennis on nice days. Now we're playing soccer and basketball and doing all this other stuff. And now we're gonna put the top on it and make it be able to use all the time, and then we're gonna illuminate it. So where we normally wouldn't have been using it at all, now we're gonna be able to use this thing essentially 24/7. I don't think that's beneficial. So I would not be in favor of this application.
I agree completely with those comments.
Me too. I do as well, and I've sat on this board on cases of other sports courts with things like this basketball and lighting, and we turned it down every
So we'd like then,
Can I have a motion to open up to the public, please? So, in a second?
Second.
sorry. We'd like to carry the matter. I have to talk with my clients. It's going to take more than just a few minutes. And we'd like the benefit of coming back at the next available meeting to do so.
Well, we're throwing you on to 113, okay, because at this point, we have not adopted a new calendar.
Sure.
Yes, Council?
I would object to that. I mean, they presented an application, it's been debated.
We do give the option to come back at a later date if they want to revise their plan. That's not unreasonable.
Well, I think you can deny it, and obviously they are always free.
No, because we're not going to get involved into a res judicata situation here. So if they come back, frankly, they can do a lot of different things, and that's up to them. But as the application stands, clearly they're not moving forward with it.
Right.
So they're going to have to make adjustments or do whatever they want to do, or not do it. I mean, it's up to them. But as for voting on it, no, we don't force a vote. We don't force a vote.
Okay.
So with that, we'll be carrying it to 113. There'll be no further notice. There's nothing forward more from the crowd.
Can I ask a question?
No, not at this point. And we're going to, there'll be no further notice unless there's any other variances that change. Okay?
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Well,
Stipulate an
if I
extension
could,
of
could I
time.
just ask a
Yes,
question? I would assume if they're gonna come back, they're gonna change the plan again, somehow. They're gonna make some changes. If they-
Possible,
We don't know.
All right,
right. And if that is the case, it would behoove Mr. Bayo to reach out to you.
There you go. Exactly.
So, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask, it's not this case of ruling?
I'm sorry?
I was thinking of going away the week you're mentioning. We
It's not
I
being
would-
heard.
waiting
First
and,
of all, there's no chance it's being held on the 13th,
It's
understand
just
that.
so we can schedule them for a 2025 meeting. We haven't adopted that.
Oh, wait, so it's not gonna be heard?
Yeah.
No, by no means is it gonna be heard on the 13th, trust me.
Oh, that's what I thought, okay.
But as for when it will be heard, it'll be determined based on the calendar, once it's adopted after the new year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then- And you'll get a notice, okay?
I didn't understand
Thank
that.
you very much.
Thank you. That's okay.
Thank you.
Why don't you come forward quick? So, before you get started, I want to explain something to you, okay?
Sure.
We only have 5 voters tonight.
Okay.
You need a clean sweep, okay? So, those aren't great odds. So I just want to make sure you're comfortable moving forward, knowing that you need 5 of 5.
We'll do our best.
Okay, Gary will be back in a second and we'll get going.
Can I say thank you? And I'm sorry, I don't know all the laws.
You did great, you did great.
It's very
Yeah.
hard to find.
No, you did
It's
great.
very hard to find things. And I just have to say, Eileen was a terrific help in trying to, we were looking for a picture.
No, you did a fantastic job. Okay, so for the record, there's no one else in the audience except for the applicant and the applicant's architect, so we'll move forward. You were both sworn in.
Yes.
Okay, so please proceed with your testimony.
So we are here for 34 Winding Way, Melbourne, a New Jersey project. I went over the variances. I can go over again. I have got all the drawings are with each one of you. We have the exhibits. I would like to get your attention on the exhibit A-2E and F.
I'm sorry. Page A2 or exhibit?
Exhibit.
We've already marked.
Those are part of the drawing. So I
Oh,
think,
these were what you submitted?
yes.
So it's page A2, okay.
Yeah, I think it's just, she has them
Yes.
labeled as exhibits.
Yes, yeah. So we can, so the last two, basically, the A-2E and A-2F. So I want to go over a couple of additional houses that we added to the exhibit, our previous exhibit. Those are the 29 Winding Way. So this is the house where variance was applied and approved on January 22nd, 2024, and they're exceeding the FAR to 37%, increasing the square footage to 3,595 square feet.
Sorry, what was the deviation on the percentage you said?
So we have variances for the side setback up to 18 feet. Another deviation for the side setback for structures over 18 feet. Required is 10.28, provided is 7 feet 6 inches.
No, that's on yours. I'm talking, did you mention another house? Did you mention another house?
Yeah,
What was the deviation of percentage of your FAR on that property that you calculated?
it was a 1% deviation.
1%.
36 is,
So it was 36, they requested 37.
yes, yes.
Right, okay.
So on the second page, which is the exhibit A-2F, it has 40 Winding Way, Melbourne. The existing, it has a picture also next to it. FAR is 46.4, and that's the square footage which we found on Zillow, 4,456. Maximum allowable for R6 is 36%, so it's 16.8% more.
I'm not sure I
10
buy that.
10 point-
Yeah,
10
Zillow.
and if it's a Zillow.
If it's
not
Zillow, we
that,
can't use Zillow.
Because it's a relatively new house. There's no way that's good. They probably included the basement.
Right, so you strictly have to go, because Zillow usually includes basements, okay? Because that's typically what they do. So you would have to strictly go off the actual property card that's at Town Hall. So if that property does not have a card on it yet,
Mhm.
then we can't include that.
The house looks bigger than
Well,
the
that's
average.
anecdotal. We have to look at, your data has to be based on
Okay,
the tax cards and, you know, versus the property. So it has to be definitive data. It can't be on Zillow.
and then the 38 Winding Way has a proposed FAR of 28%, which is 5368. Allowable is 36%. So, and these sites are smaller. If you look at 2 Winding Way, the site is 8,145. 40 is 9,596. So these are smaller sites, and they are they're built.
So you're saying, what was that second amount you said was on that property? What was the square footage?
On 40 Winding Way,
Yeah,
it was the FAR of 46.4%.
no, not that. That's the one you're talking about that you took off Zillow.
Yeah,
Forget that one. That property we can't include.
the 38 Winding Way,
Right. What size is the lot?
it was 19,000. That 38 Winding Way is 19,168 feet, which is more than the which
Just like
is
this
more.
house.
Yeah, yeah.
You're almost twice the,
right. So our site is 11,020
with a
square
6,000
feet.
minimum.
Right, but we have an unusual condition. If you look at the site plan, the site is tapering at the back. We have an easement, 15 feet easement at the back. We have this portion, the entire 1/3 of the site is sloping down.
Right, but that's not, you still get use of that part of your FAR calculation.
Right.
So that's to your
That's
benefit.
adding to the FAR,
Right.
but not, but making it kind of worse for the site setbacks because.
Oh,
you
side
see
setback,
the-
yes, I thought we were talking about FAR, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
FAR is, I think, one component of the variance. We have basically the side yard variances also besides the FAR.
Right, but since you only have 5 voters here tonight, I want to
Yes.
make sure you get that FAR in the end zone, okay? Because the other variances are C variances.
Yeah.
You only have to get the majority, so 3 of us. But that's why I want to make sure you have a proper record on this FAR that you can justify the size of your lot versus, you don't have a hardship
Right.
here.
So I want to point out to one fact. We don't have a car garage. There's.
Why don't you have a garage?
So, that's another story. There was one, which
Oh.
was before they had bought the property.
Right,
And
so,
it was-
so your house now has the benefit of a garage now being livable space.
Mhm.
It was done.
And that was also done obviously against the ordinance,
Yes.
because the garage ordinance has existed
Yes.
for many, many years. So while that is a detriment in some cases,
Right.
it's now a benefit in others. So I'm not really sure that
I mean, with the result of that, there is no car garage, so that kind of depreciates the value of the property. Because as per the ordinance, every house must have a car garage. That's like a minimum condition. Unfortunately, they bought the property with the situation where there was no car garage, and they were basically, the situation was grandfathered to them, then completely demoing it and taking it and redoing it.
So
But
you're
you're-
saying that they bought the property without it having a garage?
Yeah.
Or they took over the property
No,
and
no.
converted the garage into living
They
space?
didn't. So, I mean, he can say that too, but when they bought the property, there was no car garage.
It was the previous.
And
owners.
what had happened as, I think 2000, the previous homeowner had filed a permit for a detached garage I believe in 2005, but the garage was never built there. So, I mean, Gurpreet went back to the town, he looked over what was filed in the past, and that was the situation, so
So if you were to add just a garage to this house, what would it do to your FAR?
it would still increase it.
By how much?
So, so it's, what we are asking is 606, which is basically 303, 303, every level. And we're asking for 5.1% more than what's allowed.
I didn't get all that.
2.5.
That's not my question.
2.5.
My question is, if you were to just do the garage, it'd be 2.5.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're just to do the garage, could you move it back further? So you're not at 7.6 or whatever it was?
Making it back further, there's the slope, the deep slope starts from here. So the deep slope, it basically starts where the walkway is. There's an existing driveway here right now, and this is basically resting on that driveway. So we're not affecting the impervious coverage because it's sitting on the existing driveway. So moving it back would basically affect the in and out of the access from the house. We have a small deck at the back, and that's the way you come out. So it's basically a walkway at the back. We are basically aligning it with the back of the house.
No, I get all that. I'm just looking at your picture here, which is exhibit A to B. And it looks like there's more room there to move the garage back, which would alleviate some of your, I don't think you'll get to
A2B.
it. but-
So are you talking about the curved portion?
Yeah, like here,
So,
so
yes.
how does all this like asphalt goes all the way back to
Right.
here.
We're building, basically aligning it with the end of the house.
Right. No, no, no.
Yeah, the picture is taken as if like it's basically, it's in perspective, so. But we're not going any further from the house, we're just ending it there. And this is very nominal, it's 13 feet wide. I know typically it's like 20 by 20 two-car garage, or 20 by 18 is like the minimum standard. We are doing the minimum we can for just accommodating at least one car garage.
But you're also putting a sunroof over the garage.
So that's a room above it.
Yes.
Yes, so what we also did is, if you look at the elevations, I know you had concerns about the privacy of the neighbor. What we did is we minimized the number of windows. We minimized the number of windows, and we raised the height for those windows, the fixed windows, so that the vision, it doesn't affect the privacy of the neighbors. It's about 8 feet from the floor level, so obviously that won't get affected. We changed the windows to double hung. And we slightly reduced also the FAR on the top. Earlier it was cantilevered by 2 feet. We made it in line with the ground, the first floor. So 303 on the first floor, 303 on the upper floor. Windows are just, I couldn't call it as a sunroom because sunroom would have at least 60% of the walls for glazing. I had to call it as a rec room to answer that definition. But yeah, we did address the concern about the neighbor by giving higher windows on that side, which faces the neighbor. This is the elevation at the back side. That's just a Juliet balcony, more for the glazing, the light and ventilation.
So I'm sorry, how high up are the windows from the floor in the rec room?
About 2 feet 1 inch
On the side? You're
for the
talking about
sill
back.
level. Here we have the one, it's the same sill level.
I can't
2
tell
feet
if that's
1.
just I'm old, I can't see. So is that the back of the house you're pointing to?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
door. Those are hinge doors that open on the inside of the room. And then the next to the hinge door are the windows.
Okay. Now, what about on the side that's next to the neighbor?
So this is the side which is next to the neighbor. The windows have a sill level of about 8 feet. It has a
So if
cathedral
you're standing
ceiling.
in that room, you can't, like,
You can't.
look out.
Right,
Just the sun is just.
yeah, and plus they can use that blank wall for
Understood. So
things,
that's
yeah.
very helpful in terms of the sun level. I mean, I think the concern for me is really with the
Right.
FAR.
Mhm.
You're already maxed out, and to Craig's point, got the advantage of not having the garage. I understand why you want a garage and the ordinance requires a garage, but it does feel a little bit like you're taking more than that. You're taking more than what you need for the garage, and for reasons I understand, but that's not really our purview.
Mhm.
So that's really my concern, but obviously others may have questions.
Any other questions? Do you have any other testimony?
So under the negative criteria, I want to go over, it won't increase the traffic to the property. It's going to be, the cars were parked outside, now they're getting a space to park the one car at least. It's not going to hurt the property value. It would increase the property value. It's going to make the aesthetics of the house look more better with the with the addition. The drainage issues also were thought. We have a huge slope at the back, so rainwater, the gutters would drain towards the back, not towards the neighbors. And in the front, it would get connected with the stormwater line that the main public sewer is going. It would get connected to that. In conclusion, I think we're proposing a moderate side addition and hope the board considers that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll close the public portion. Board members, what are your thoughts?
Well, again, I'll say, I mean, I certainly understand what's trying to be done here, and I do think you are trying to do it in as less encroaching a way as you can with respect to the neighborhood. You have a somewhat large house in the neighborhood, just driving in that neighborhood and looking at the other homes. I do think that putting a 2-story structure on the side of the house will make the house even larger. And so I have some trouble kind of with the sunroom idea. I'm sympathetic on the garage. It is, I understand why you can't go back further to Craig's question, but you know, I think it would probably look less imposing in the neighborhood if there were just a single story, but I don't know what other people think.
So I would agree with that. And to take it one step further, I'm not really sure, well, a couple things. Number one, it's one thing to have a garage, it's a single story structure that's 7.5 feet off the property line. But now when you double the size of that, and now the whole structure is essentially 7 feet off the property line, it makes it far more imposing. That's number one. Number two, you have a way oversized lot. You're almost 2x the zone requirement. And this isn't, you know, the one example you brought us was 1% over. Like, that's sort of what I see on this lot. Even that is hard to justify based on the fact that this lot is so enormous and we're still going over the FAR. I don't think you've met the criteria. There's no hardship here.
Can I?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
The public portion is closed. I don't think you've met the criteria in the testimony you've heard so far, okay? From a C1 perspective, you don't have hardship, okay? You could argue the hardship for the setbacks based on the sort of pie shape, whatever you want to call that property. But for the FAR, I haven't heard any compelling information other than saying we just wanted the room on top of the garage. And echoing back to what Gary reiterated is the fact that this house had a garage. And now we use that as internal space, which adds value to the house because it's a bigger house. And now we want to slap a garage back on the outside of it, creating more, you know, relief requests for something we already had. And I would argue that a garage that's a side entering garage is better for the neighborhood than a forward-facing garage. I realize forward-facing garage are permitted in the zone, but given the size of this property, if it was able to have a side entering garage, it would be far more attractive, hence not having setback issues. So that being said, I would not be in favor of this application the way it's currently presented. I yield to.
I would agree. I think, I don't think it's right to penalize the applicant for moving into a house where the garage was taken out. So I really don't have a problem with the applicant wanting to add on a garage, and it does benefit, you know, our township's ordinances because, and the master plan, because all houses are supposed to have a garage, but I can't see any justification for this massive D variance, you know, the 5.3%, you know, variance request on a house that's already on an oversized lot. I mean, I can't think of another time that we've granted that. There's just no justification here for that part of it. The garage, I don't have an issue with.
I'll say I agree with all their comments, and I appreciate what you've done with the windows to try and meet the need of the neighbor. It's just that it's so close to the property line, and it's such a big structure, the massing would be, I think, obvious and not fit in the neighborhood. So.
As we did, I'm assuming.
I agree with Jessica.
Okay, so that being said, you obviously don't have the votes to get the FAR done, okay? So would you like to come back as we offer you that second bite of the apple, and take another look at this?
Can I get 2 minutes to just talk to
Absolutely,
my
go
applicant?
ahead.
So would the board be okay if we just ask for one car garage?
Well,
Make
you have to,
changes.
you have to reapply with that. I mean, I can't answer for what the board set thinks, because we'd have to first see how it draws out, what it looks like, what you do with your roof lines, also what finally the numbers look like. So I would highly recommend that you put together a plan,
Mhm.
you know, with that aesthetic and see where it goes.
So going back to the numbers for the setbacks and the FAR, all the variances would still get kicked in because the FAR would still get exceeded. What is showing up is 5.1%, but still it would be half of it. So let's say 2.5% would still get triggered. The setbacks would still get triggered because for a
Well,
one car.
Once again, FAR doesn't just speak to numbers, it speaks to massing. And if you drive around this town, I guarantee you, if I took you a tour on it and I asked you, is that house over FAR, is that house, you'll get it right every time, the ones that are over FAR. So it speaks to massing. So it's not necessarily the numbers per se, as much as when you have these numbers and you have these deviations, if all of a sudden, when you drive past the house, you're like, whoa, that's big. And it just
Right.
doesn't look right in the lot.
Right.
So how you justify that is up to you, but less is always more.
Right. I do understand that. I completely agree with all your concerns. But in terms of the square footage, what I'm trying to say, I understand the massing part of it. It would be, but what I'm trying to say is it would be still a one-storied because a garage
Well,
needs to have.
is not having a garage a hardship?
It is.
Right.
So
Right.
we would like to come back with some changes, yeah.
Okay. So once again, we're gonna throw you on to the 13th. That's just a marker. You're not coming on the 13th. It's probably gonna be later than that. But
Okay,
just for scheduling purposes.
okay,
Eileen will reach out to you when it will actually be heard. And we go from there. So, once again, for scheduling purposes, this application will move to the 13th. There'll be no further notice. Assuming you're not asking for more variance relief, you can keep your notice. Otherwise, if you do ask for more, then you're gonna have to renotice.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, for the record, there's no one else in the audience tonight, so there will be no other things discussed that are not on the agenda.
Except that we will be saying goodbye to Craig next year.
So, yeah, so I'll get to that real quick. We have 3 people retiring from the board. First of which, Priscilla. She will not be renewing. But Amy has decided that she will be leaving the board as well. She's a very valuable member, and I thank you for your contributions on behalf of the town. Great asset. Very well composed thoughts on what you adjudicate. And lastly, I will be departing the board. I guess I've been here for 10 years or so now. And it's come time, I think, for a change of guard and some innovative ideas, as well as to see where it all goes. So I look forward to seeing what the board can do. You'll have a bunch of new people, I'm assuming. I don't know.
I didn't find out until probably January 2nd when they have the meeting. That's
Right.
typically when they tell me.
Yeah, so at least 3 new
Never
people
know.
will be added.
Well, Craig, I would like to say you will be sorely, sorely missed.
Absolutely.
You have been an incredible leader of this board, chair of the board. And even before you took over as chair of the board, you have always been an incredibly valuable member of the board. And, your shoes will be very hard to fill. And I wish you'd reconsider, but you will be missed.
We all
So
do.
thank you
Yeah, thank
so much.
And lastly, Eileen, I want to thank you. You've made me look good for all these years, and all the work you do. And I know you're the clock's ticking on you as well, but, you know, at least for the next few years, couple of years, whatever it is, they get to enjoy you. So I appreciate everything you've done for the board.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And thank you, Eric. Starting
Thank
your
you.
dad.
Yeah,
I know.
that's true.
Yeah.
Eric can never retire.
No.
John Barrett, no one else does it.
That's true too.
Yeah. So, and with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I
Have a happy holiday.
Wow, Craig out.
know.
End of an era.
Wow.